The following game has been rated E for everyone by the ESRB, and it has no listed restrictions. That means that the content in the game should be appropriate for anyone aged 6 and up. Furthermore, this game is also listed as Early Access. That means that this game is not yet completed, so what you will see in the following video may not be reflective of the final product. You have been warned. Greetings and salutations, I am Outlier, and I bid you welcome to this channel. Joining me today is, of course, my usual co-hosts, Snowball and Wolf. And today we are returning back to Hardspace Shipbreaker. No, we're not building ships. This is not Hardspace Ship Builder. Although that would probably just be just as equally and interesting of a game. This is Hardspace Shipbreaker, where you're doing the opposite. The premise of Hardspace Shipbreaker is that you play as a orbital salvage engineer working for the mega corporation Lynx Incorporated, or Lynx Co, I believe it is, and they hired you to basically live and operate out of one of their orbital salvage yards, where they take any and every derelict and decommissioned space vessel they can find, dump it in your bay, and then you get to chop it up for parts, which you then sell to your employers, who they then sell to somebody else for a massive profit. And in exchange for the salvage, they give you two types of currency. Lynx points, which is an incorporation monetary currency used to purchase upgrades and equipment for your character. Yes, you start off with all of your equipment. It's just owned by the corporate overlords, and they expect you to buy it from them. Otherwise, you have to pay a rental fee. The other currency is credits, which I'm assuming is the standard currency for the civilization that you're a part of. But you can't actually spend these credits on anything on account of the corporation expended a large expense to the tune of 1 billion credits just to get you into orbit and pay for your housing and all your equipment, and even costs in case you die doing their work, the work for them. And rather than being a good corporation, just saying, having a contract where, okay, we incurred $1 billion to get you up here, you need to work for X number of years, or they siphon X amount off of your paycheck, or they just assume or hope that they'll make it back. They settle you with a debt. So in order to actually legally leave, you have to pay them $1 billion. Yes, just like a true benevolent corporation would. Yeah, you're kind of getting a picture as to how the Lynx Corporation operates. So I should point out that this game is still being built. It is currently in what's known as Early Access, which is a fancy term for a developer releasing a work-in-progress style game. onto Steam or a Steam equivalent platform. The final game may not be representative of what you see currently in this video. So that disclaimer out of the way. This game is of course made by Thank you again. And, that being said, let us begin. Good morning, Shipbreaker. Reminder, minimum payments are due by something, 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 something. They do not give you enough time to actually read that. So, this is our habitation module. This is the main menu. I have a quota of completing various objectives to get to my next certification. The next certification allows me to upgrade new things better, as well as gets me access to a greater tier of ships. By greater tier, I mean harder to chop up vessels. So there's that. I also get a bunch of equipment. Everything, well, looks to be mostly repaired. Scanner's taken a few knocks, but should be, still be viable. But all the important stuff is still functioning. I do have quite a bit of comms data that I keep finding. I usually don't bother recovering this stuff or even looking at it. It's just, well, for now, as far as I know, basic fluff text. And while it is interesting sitting there reading all that stuff, the point of the game is to take apart ships. So that's generally what I focus on. This is the debt payment that I still have to complete. I need to pay Lynx Corp 943,975,560 credits before I get to go home, and I have a measly total of 140 Lynx points to, well, I guess pay for lunch. So, menu, that's the basic main menu. If we go to start shift, as I said before, partially stripped vessels don't actually carry over, so I don't have the ability to continue salvage. So if we look at the catalog, the top tier vessels that I have are these four, which is, looks like a gecko transplanetary gecko, or station hopper. Tiber Transplanter was the former owner. A heavy cargo gecko, another transport gecko, and oh look, yeah, it's actually a salvage gecko, right? So if we go down to tier 4, we have 3 station hoppers, which are transport geckos, I believe. And then down we have the other class of ship that's in the game, the Mackerels, which are which are smaller than the geckos, and let's see, it's like 3 heavy cargo, well, 3 cargo mackerels and a transport mackerel. Then at tier 2, it's basically a bunch of easy light cargo mackerels. So I guess there is a difference between heavy and light mackerels. And then on tier 1, we have the basic training mackerel, which is what they give you to basically play with, so that way you learn how everything works and you don't explode their ship. So I know I've done cargo mackerels before, but I don't believe I've ever done heavy cargos. At least heavy mackerels as opposed to light mackerels. I have done cargo class mackerels before, but I can't remember if they were light or heavy. So I may not have done a heavy cargo mackerel before. Although I really do want to do the salvage gecko, because that's the new one and I want to see what it's like. But mackerels are easier to do, although if I choose a cargo mackerel, I can't guarantee the salvage gecko will still be here. You can only pick one ship, and once you pick a ship, your options are keep salvaging it until there's nothing left, switch to a new ship in between shifts, but anything left over from the old ship is forfeited. I'm not entirely certain I can actually strip a full gecko in about an hour and a half, which is how my videos usually run. But that's neither here nor there. It's been a while since I played, so let's actually go with something easier. There'll be other salvage vessels. So this is the Mackerel. Actually, this is us. This is the Mackerel. Left, right, forward, backward. backwards. Down, up, and break. Let's grab onto this and pull ourselves closer. Why waste gas if, why waste thruster gas if we don't need to? So, as I've no doubt said before in pretty much every episode that I do of this, I like working on the outside in. So, really? So what are my work orders? Salvage power cell, thruster class Mark 1, electrical. It's hard to see sometimes. 8 electrical, 9 mechanical. The forklift, almost 15,000 tons of nanocarbon, a little over 2,000 kilograms of, I say tons, not kilograms, 2,000 kilograms of metal, 366 things of fuel, 58 coolant, and 4 computer terminals. Okay then. So, one thing I didn't mention before, if you haven't seen any other episodes, is that, at least on the difficulty setting that I have, you are currently on the clock. So every shift that you have lasts 15 minutes. So you have until then to strip as much as you can off the ship for salvage. Now, you can work on the same ship, multiple shifts. So it's not like I have 15 minutes to completely take apart this mackerel. Otherwise, I lose what I don't take off. I can come back later, but that's classified as another day, and I incur another day's worth of costs in order to do it. And what you leave behind between shifts may not always be enough to justify the costs, so... Also, there's effectively 4 places you put stuff when salvaging and taking things apart. What you see right there that I've been tossing stuff into is known as the processor. Things like nanocarbon and certain kinds of equipment go to the processor, which I like to call the blue maw. There's actually 2 of them. One to the left and one to the right. Next to that is the furnace, which most of your scrap metal and just generic metal go to. I like calling it the red maw for obvious reasons. And again, left and right. You also have the barge, which most of your equipment goes to. It's underneath the bay. I think it's actually not attached to the Morgan station where you currently work out of. And as I said, that's where all the shiny pieces go. So things like computer terminals, chairs, thruster control surfaces, this cargo hatch, all that fun stuff will go down into the barge. And then the 4th place is your pockets, which is small things like data drives and the like go to. Gotta get working. I'm almost 5 minutes down and I haven't really salvaged all that much. I did say that you incur daily costs, and as I said in the intro, until you effectively until you basically use your links points to purchase the equipment from your corporate overlords, you have to rent it from them. So there's a daily rental fee associated with that. In addition to that, things like room and board are also charged to you. Yes, it's a for-profit corporation. They're not just going to hand you anything. Or everything, or anything. So, in order to salvage anything and everything, you have basically two different tools. The grapple, which you currently see, which is used to grab things, move them around, and push things to various places. And then you have the laser cutter, which has two different versions. The crosscut, which you see, which basically fires a cutting beam, either horizontal or vertical. And then there's the stinger, which is more for pinpoint accuracy type stuff. Now, the hull is made out of a fancy space metal known as nanocarbon, which the cutter can't actually take apart just yet. You can upgrade it so that way it can take apart cut through nanocarbon, but I haven't gotten that far yet, and it's probably a good idea because for some reason, when they dropped the ship off into your salvage bay, they left it fully pressurized.
Valuable object processed. Credit
And
deposited.
Newtonian physics do to a certain extent still apply. So if you were to cut into the ship that's still pressurized, because you're in an unpressurized environment, I'm just going back for O2. I like picking up more oxygen once it gets to around
Have a nice day.
100 units of O2. As I was saying, that's actually... I can yank that right off. Why don't I just yank that right off?
Valuable object processed. Credit awarded.
Oh yeah, so the inside's pressurized, so I technically have to go in and depressurize everything. Otherwise, I start cutting into this thing and the air is going to escape and explode forth and cause damage to the vessel and all the valuable shiny things inside. And that goes for any kind of hull breach. So if I cut into the glass there, oh look, that's actually all the metal I actually need. Anyway, I cut into, say, the glass right there, exposing the cockpit to the wonders of zero pressure space, and assuming the cockpit door is still open, I will decompress the entire ship. So every ship's got an airlock. That's what this thing here is for. So I can just basically go here, activate the airlock.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
It depressurizes, I hop in, I close this to repressurize the airlock.
Pressure levels increasing.
And because I have the upgrades for it, I can actually filter the in-ship O2 to the suit. So I'm actually gaining oxygen while just sitting here in a pressurized environment. That's interesting. I must never have actually salvaged one of these before because I'm used to having multiple types of chambers and there being an inner hull as in addition to the outer hull. Also, I'm used to all the lights working, but that flickering might be new. Alright, so the first thing I like doing once all the easy to grab outer stuff is done is to depressurize the ship. You do that with these pressure cycles, which for some reason only work only on your first shift that you get them. And the ship's built-in computer apparently is smart enough to know that the cockpit wasn't pressurized, so while the rest of the cabin was, it had closed that door. Alright, so we close that to, well, we depressurize the airlock, so that way
everything is now depressurized. And then we can start cutting apart the hull. Now, unlike the Gecko, which has an inner hull, dedicated inner hull and entire keel framework, the Mackerel, at least for the ceiling and floor, are just bolted onto the frame. So I cut all those pieces off, and these chunks should technically just fly off. You'll see.
Processing valuable objects. Credits awarded.
Alright, and so now that the entire ship has been depressurized, I can cut open the cargo door, or cut off the cargo door, and not have to worry about depressurizing the entire ship. And since the cargo door goes to the barge, we just tether it to the net, and it should be on
Salvage
its way.
deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Okay, why wasn't I stopping? Alright, so that hasn't been disconnected yet. Ah, there we are. Stuff will actually hit you in the face, so you gotta be careful as to where stuff goes flying. I can remove that. More nanocarbon goes to the processor. That was surprisingly fast. Okay, so these are the forklifts. I should be able to just buck them up, I think. Yeah, there they go. Come with me.
Salvage secured.
Alright, we've completed another work objective. That gets me more links points. There's technically a second forklift in here, so we should probably go about grabbing that. Also, the yellow things you saw me cutting are what's known as cut points. They are structural weak points, for lack of a better term, which keep the various parts of the ship together. In order to break apart the ship, you gotta cut through the cut points, and all the pieces come flying off. Well, not really flying off, as you saw with some of the hull chunks. They'll float off, but other than that, they'll just basically sit there. Now, the green ones have cut guards, which, in story-wise, protect the cut points from...
Secured. Account credit applied.
Oh, look, a data drive. As I said, they protect the cut guards protect the cut points from the various stresses of space travel. What is this thing? Multi-tool. Interesting. Alright, so I should probably vent this. Alright, so I'm going to assume that that worked. Alright, that's one shift down. Oh, multi-tool's only worth 50 credits. Interesting. Forklifts are worth 60,000 apiece. Alright, so I ended up making 395,526.7 credits. I don't believe that's enough to cover daily costs, but then again, I did spend the first third of my shift just talking. Yeah, so I have various resurrection fees. If I happen to die, the corporation will more than willingly create a new clone for me.
I do question that because they're able to completely clone their employees with new memories. One thing I was thinking about in between play sessions was what's stopping them from former successful employees that pay off their debt and leave? What's stopping the corporation from just recloning them, telling them that they still have debt to pay, and then just basically having a large quantity of disposable clone lookalikes? We don't really ever see anybody in the game. Well, so you don't know how many clones they made of you while you're still alive? I'm also not entirely certain you know that you're actually the original one. Yes, that would cause an identity crisis. Assuming you're the original Snowball.
So that actually slightly increased. That does sometimes happen with the mackerels because the stuff that you chop off just isn't worth it. So let's just continue salvage. And I should have checked to be certain my equipment was actually working properly. But it was at 100%. It doesn't degrade that quickly. So, one thing I like doing is working from the front to the back. So let's cut off this glass.
Raw material processed. Credits deposited.
Change the audio. I don't recall the force push sounding like that. And then with the glass gone, because it's already been depressurized from the yesterday's shift, because each 15-minute shift is apparently a day.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
I can just grab everything right out of the front, chop off the glass of the front cockpit, and just pull everything out through that way. What are you? Oh, more glass.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Okay, bye. I said bye. Don't know if that's going in, and it's a small chunk of glass, so I really don't care. What are you, a storage bin? So there is an interesting feature that with the grapple, if you grapple something that's massive, you can actually pull yourself towards it, whereas something small, you can pull towards you. Very helpful for getting these small computers out of confined spaces, but if you're not careful, you'll just end up smacking them against various things. Like the remaining glass. Also, when the grappler goes red like that, that means it's passing through solid matter. So the fancy smancy sci-fi tech beam that somehow allows you to defy the laws of mass and physics to pull things clean out of a ship that you couldn't do with by hand can't also go through solid matter. And when you see a red beam, that means it's not a stable beam and will eventually break apart. Oh, there's also a power junction box here. I don't like dealing with them generally as a rule, especially when the power generator is still technically plugged in. Just simply because every time I yank one, they start sparking and quickly explode.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
So that's another work order down. Just got coolant, fuel, large amount of nanocarbon, more mechanical, more electrical, the thruster and the power cell. Really? No reactor? Interesting. Yeah, see, so there you go. Red beam means not functioning. Or at least, bad contact. So if you hadn't noticed, stuff in the barge actually continues on through the various shifts. So, especially with the larger vessels, the more you salvage and shove into the barge, the more crowded it gets. And unlike with the red and blue maws, the stuff will actually accumulate in the net, and eventually it'll get to the point where stuff you're trying to add bounces off the stuff that's already in there, and the stuff starts breaking. Not my favorite part of the game. Especially when something you need for a work order bounces off of something that's already there, and then you gotta go catch it, or it breaks, and it's just annoying.
Salvage secured. Creds deposited.
So this is the scanner. Allows you to basically see through things. Where is... quite a few fuel tanks. Where is the power generator? Oh. That's it right there. So in regards to the power junction boxes, what I like doing is pulling the power cell or power generator, depending upon the model of the ship, first, which in theory should technically cut power to everything, so the lights stop working, any, well, the door controls should still technically work, but, you know, things shouldn't be receiving power, and I think it makes the junction boxes easier to handle. Not really, truth be told.
Salvage secured.
But I like to think it means that they don't explode as quickly. Alright, so that was not the cut guard. Well, that was not the cut point. That was the cut point, however. Alright, so that's everything that keeps the front of the ship attached to the rest of the ship. And what I like generally doing with the Mackerels is once I cut off the top, I tether the front to one of these tank barrier things. And it should technically be enough to pull the front of the ship away from the rest. And usually with the passenger ones, so is it still connected? But no, it's moving slowly because it's massive.
Your oxygen reserves are low. Note that excess carbon dioxide can cause damage to Link's equipment.
I do miss when the warning was at 100.
Welcome to Vendron 9000.
Oxygen levels stabilizing.
So I don't like the fact that tab, when getting out of that menu, closes your work orders. Also, haven't quite figured out the button for releasing the tethers yet. So anyway, as I was saying about the cut guards, they are what protect. They help protect the cut points on the vessel, and the thing about them is that while you can use the laser to cut through the various regular cut points, you can't use the laser to cut the... Oh, wait, there's two power cells?
Credits transferred.
That's interesting. As I was saying, you can't use the laser to cut through the cut points. I mean, can't use them to cut through the cut guards. I mean, you technically can. They'll just catch on fire and just burn. Oh, there's the other one. Can we not? Yo. Alright, so that's the power cells.
Secured. Credits deposited.
So that should mean that the junction box should technically just pop out normally. I don't expect it to, given the fact it was sparking like that.
Salvage secured.
I actually did not expect that to work. Just getting this out, because that two's sparking, we should keep our distance. But how you deal with a cut guard is, while you can't cut through them using lasers, what you can do... What the heck is this thing? Oh, it's just some glass. Probably that chunk of glass I couldn't fire off. As I was saying, what you could do is hit them with something kinetic. So, like, for instance, if we line this up and just go like that, off goes the cut guard. And it's just a normal cut point there. And I don't know if I want to do it this way. Yeah, it's just a simple one. Backing it up.
Alright, Cutter, you got 5 minutes left to the ship.
Alright, so I was afraid that the cut guard, that the glass I was firing at the cut guard would hit this coolant and cause it to explode. Coolant tanks are somewhat fragile, but now that the cut guards are off and there's nothing here, so I can be rather a bit more reckless. And just cut off the sides of the front and just pop them off like that.
Valuable object processed. Credits awarded.
Alright, I don't like the fact that that coolant tank was leaking like that. Just take the door thing off. Now, is there anything else in here that I would want to bother with? I guess the light. They are a pain in the butt to get off, though.
Salvage deposit accepted.
But coin is coin. You see what I mean? That light bounced off of the net, something already in the net.
Deposited.
Alright, and since I can't cut through the nanocarbon, I have no way of separating the remaining furnaceable metal from the nanocarbon outer hull. And until I can actually chop off the nanocarbon, it would probably be more time consuming than it's worth just cutting off the ceilings and floors. So once all the little nice chunks are out of the cockpit, I just basically toss the entire front into the blue maw. Because for this thing, what I would make off of the nanocarbon would exceed the amount that I lose from tossing the metal down the wrong maw. Couldn't actually remember what it was I was thinking about. Alright, so that's a fuel tank, so we gotta be careful.
Object accessed for processing. Credits deposited.
Alright, so I have absolutely no idea if this fuel line's attached to this piece or not. Apparently it's still connected to the ship. Come on. One thing I could technically do is... What's that other... Oh, there we are. I could technically tether two pieces together and send them down the various malls. So like I tethered that piece to that piece, and then that piece to the blue maw, and as that pulls in, it should pull that piece as well. Which it does. I technically wasted a tether for that, but...
Reminder, asphyxiation can lead to missed salvage quotas.
Alright, so I'm running low on O2, but I have less shift time than I have O2 for. But at less than 30 seconds, there's not much I'm going to be able to grab. So I'm just going to head back in. Oh, and this is the HAB module that we live in. So we basically live right outside the our commute area. Alright, so this time we made just over $1 million. So almost 200,000 on the 2 power cells. Almost $250,000 on the nanocarbon. Over $250,000 if you count the nanocarbon and the nanocarbon panels combined. Then we lost... Yeah, so I managed to salvage about 80,000, a little over... Yeah, about 8,100 kilograms of nanocarbon between the panels and the standard nanocarbon, whereas I lost 1,012 kilograms of aluminum panel and 62 kilograms of aluminum structure. So yeah, I definitely had more nanocarbon to deal with than I had aluminum. We definitely made more than the daily fees would be. In fact, we probably made more than 2 days worth of daily fees combined, so I actually made back what I'd lost yesterday. So we take a look at equipment. The grapple's at 80%. The laser cutter is at 66. So what I'm going to do, I generally like waiting until they're between 50 to 75% before I start using repair kits, and I really need to buy more repair kits. Usually I can find like 3 or 4 in the ship, but I don't think the cargo vessel is going to allow me to do that. So I could probably get away with 1 more day of the cutter for repairing the cutter. So let's just continue on. Also, you get back all the tethers that you used. So. Just take this gas tank out. Because gas goes boom, we have to be careful.
Deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Don't need to worry so much about this crate though.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Oh look, another cut guard.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Alright, so that wall right there is the airlock. I don't think I have anything scrap-wise that I can just basically hit this thing with. Why do I get the sneaking suspicion? There's still fuel in those fuel lines. I swear I saw that terminal flop over. Oh, so that's the reactor. That right there is what basically powers the vessel. And it's the single most dangerous thing on the ship. It's also the single most expensive thing on the ship. It's the only thing that once you pull out of the housing, it starts natural decay, and if it decays completely before you get it into the net, it explodes. Rather violently, I should point out. So it's usually one of the last things I generally try to salvage.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied. Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
Also, the atmospheric regulator is also worth some coins, so I generally try to grab as many of those as I can. Back it up, back it up. Did I mention how much I hate those power boxes? I pull one, and even though there shouldn't be any more power left to the ship,
Salvage destroyed. Please refrain
it caused
from
a chain
damaging
reaction on that one fuel line, and is now blowing up the vessel. The other one was still venting gas. Not was, it still is. Pisses me off. Alright, so you're still technically processable, so you go there. I'm assuming there's now nothing left attaching you to the rest of the ship. So you can go with it. Pull up a light. Gimme. My light.
Valuable objects processed. Credits awarded.
Oh, more processable scrap. Interesting. Of course, it's still nanocarbon, even if it is chunks of small nanocarbon. Random, still intact cut point. On the plus side, I now have small chunks of scrap I can just fling at. Yeah, that gas line is still intact, so I am not going to. That's a busted light. I am not going to bother with that one just yet. Damaged, but it does get me enough fuel to complete the work order. Surprised there's still a coolant tank left. I thought the last one I saw was right here, which exploded when the power junction box went off. Stupid box. I hate those things. I know in the past it would actually say, if I can't complete a work order, it would say incomplete and then go away. In fact, it still says I can salvage a small amount of coolant left. I'm not quite certain where it is.
Salvage secured. Credits
Grab you
deposited.
as well. I'm fairly certain I don't need to worry about the airlock anymore, so we can just grab the door control on the outside. Fire you off into that. Fire you off into that. Take you. Fire you into there. keep thinking that there's actually a regulator in here somewhere. So the airlock goes to the barge.
Your oxygen reserves are dropping below statistically profitable levels.
Usually it's... Glad I was not traveling fast enough to actually get injured there.
Welcome to Venditron 9000.
Oxygen levels stabilizing.
Purchase. Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase.
Buy a couple repair kits.
Thank you for your purchase.
New utility key.
Have a nice day.
Alright, so we'll just cut this bottom piece off right here. Feed you to the blue maw.
Valuable object processed. Credits deposited.
Take this piece of flooring as well. Back up in case of whiplash. Throw some random chunks of scrap into the processor.
Valuable object. Credit awarded.
Random chunk of titanium panel goes in there. Deal with that computer.
Salvage secured.
Alright, so now there should be a straight path. So we tether the reactor point to there. Choose a nice open spot on the net. Let the green line form. And then back away because that's explosive.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Now I could technically have just yanked the reactor like any other piece of equipment and then just handled it normally. But as I said, those things are on a time limit once
Got about
the
5 minutes left in this
leave
ship.
the housing.
Don't bite off more than you can chew. Weaver out.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
So I just like running a tether straight from. Yeah, I stopped talking, so who cares? You saw what I did. That's all that matters. Alright, so if we just work on the back here, hit that cut point, that cut point. If we stop moving so we can actually hit the cut point, that gets the thruster cap off. Technically I don't need to salvage this piece separately, but it's pretty much the only way to get the thruster out of the Mackerel, because it's got this crossbar piece here which you can't cut through.
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
See? Can't cut through it. Now or possibly even forever. The only way to get the thruster out, and since it's part of the work orders, I need to make certain I get it out, is to remove the thruster cap and then just yank it out the back of the ship like it's a poop.
Yes, I made a poop joke. Deal with it.
And we just tether that to the net and watch as it goes down. We're good.
Salvage
So I just need one more mechanical thing, a whole bunch of nanocarbon, and a small amount of coolant. I have absolutely no idea where I'm going to get the small amount of coolant from. As far as I know, all I got left are one fuel tank, and then the thrusters. Right, it does not tell me if that's still full of fuel, so what we're going to do, could have sworn I vented it all, but it did not appear so. You know what I'm going to do? Is cut off the nacelles first. Okay, that's still technically considered part of the ship, which means that fuel line is still connected to it. So I'm gonna have to cut off the fuel line as well. That there. That there. Right now, you come off. Because something decided to blow up the fuel line on that side. Stupid power junction box. But that means that there's no more fuel line I have to worry about, so I can just pull off the nacelle and just yank it down that way. Alright, so I've elected to salvage the nacelle first before doing this, but
Alright, Cutter. Wrap it up. You got about a minute left.
nope, not letting me do that either.
Credits
Okay.
transferred.
So now we see if there's still fuel in there. The hard way. Yep, there's still gas. Alright, well, oxygen's critical, so we're going back for another day. Also, the cutter is now smoking, so probably should go about fixing that. Alright, so one power junction box destroyed because it's being stupid. 160 kilograms of fuel pipe destroyed for reasons. 9 lights destroyed. Over 2,000 kilograms of nanocarbon destroyed, 1 fuel tank destroyed, and 55 kilograms of titanium were destroyed. Am I glad I got the reactor and the thruster out beforehand. It does not say thruster twin nacelle destroyed, so I'm assuming that's still intact. Also, the reactor, as I said before, is the single most expensive thing on the ship. It alone will pay for a day's expenses. So look at equipment. The cutter is now below 50%, so we'll just repair that now. Yeah, the grapple's, I guess, okay. We only have 854 links points. So I can increase the cutter, the split saw, which is the beam cutter and laser, its range, its heat capacity, or the stinger's range. I don't have this one yet, so I can't get that one. And the other upgrades, which increase the stinger's range even more, increases the cut grade, which I don't believe increases the beam length for the split saw, but allows me to cut through nanocarbon. I can't get those until I can get certification rank 8 and 9 respectively. Can't even buy the cutter until rank 10. Whereas the only upgrades I can get for the grapple are to increase its range and the force push ability. Everything else is locked behind a higher rank and grade. I can also increase my speed, braking capabilities, and fuel capacity. I almost never run out of thruster fuel. I haven't yet, so I'm probably not inclined to upgrade fuel capacity until I know for a fact I'm going to actually use that. I will have her increase braking because there's just times I can't stop fast enough. The only thing left for the cross-spectrum scanner is a range upgrade. I even purchased it, so there's nothing I can get there. I can increase the O2 recharge, which means, well, as long as I'm in a pressurized environment, my O2 will go up as opposed to down. But I don't have enough links points for that, and can't get the auto synth. Don't quite know what that's about, but since they changed the audio, something tells me that it may automatically be upgraded. But we'll see if anything sounds different. Let us continue with what is left of this massive heap that used to be a ship. Alright, so that's all gone, so I should be able to just simply pull off the nacelle now. Yes, I can. Down you go. And there we are.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
We'll just cut off the back because this is a single unit of nanocarbon right back here. I guess it does still sound different. I don't know. At least it's supposed to be a single thing of nanocarbon. Can't I pull it off? So I shouldn't have to worry about fuel, so cut through those. Which means this side panel should be free. Grab the light as it goes by. Watch as said light bounces off the net.
Credits awarded.
Do the same for this one.
Object not accepted. Please revisit your training.
It's scrap. No one cares about scrap. I blew up the frame to the point where that cut point's no longer attached to anything, but we're going to chop it off anyway.
Deposit accepted.
Just in case. I'm going to feed this panel to the blue maw. And that panel to the blue maw. See about grabbing this light.
Deposit not accepted.
Just more scrap.
material deposited.
Alright, and now there should be nothing attaching the back piece to the frame. So all that's left now for work orders is just to salvage a small amount of coolant, which I don't think actually exists anymore. So I'm going to assume that that either completed or was flagged as a failure, and you are caught on the Stormbreaker, aren't you? That's what I call this little wall thing between the red and blue and red moss, the Stormbreak. A lot of stuff ends up getting caught on it and ends up falling down the wrong maw. If anything gets past the yellow lines, you just assume it's going to go down that maw. Alright, so all that's left is this panel, the airlock, and what's left of the frame. Oh, and this light. A few people really care about lights because they don't really make all that much money, so just fire that off there.
Salvage secured. Account credit
Right, so
applied.
now there should be nothing left in regards to the fuel tanks. Still gonna back up anyway. Cut that piece of guard off. Fuel pipe's gotta go in the processor anyway, so we're just gonna shove that entire panel down. And there's still a cut guard there. Fine. Happy? Guess the cut guards are for the airlock instead. Last time I played this, the airlock wasn't considered its own unique piece. It was just, you know, a chunk of the ship. So alright, so let's see if that removes it. It does. Although it does still knock the whole frame about. And it also gets the airlock out of the
Oxygen reserves are low.
rest of the frame. So we're just going to fire that there.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Get to the hab real quick before we suffocate.
Welcome to Mediate 9000.
Oxygen levels stabilizing.
Alright, so there's pretty much nothing left of the attached to the frame except for the frame itself. And I believe all this goes to the red maw, so we're just gonna toss it down there.
Raw material
This
processed.
panel can go
Credits
here.
deposited.
And that should be pretty much everything left of the ship. All that's left is just a bunch of chunks that exploded. And I can just fire off into the furnace for small piles of coin.
Material deposited.
Chunk of titanium. And just more scrap.
Deposit accepted.
Alright, so clearly that fuel control terminal was not working because the fuel was still everywhere. Should have hit the manual ones just to be certain, but because of the stupid power junction box, blew up half the ship. Well, not really half the ship. Good chunks of it, though.
Cutter, there's 5 minutes remaining in this shift. Get in while the getting's good.
Yeah, it's a chunk of scrap. No one cares. Alright, so all that's left is small pieces of scrap. Probably not really worth time.
Raw material processed. Credits deposited.
Let's fire that back into the berth. So I'm content with just leaving the shift early because there's no ship left. And what's left of the ship isn't worth tracking down. Just various
Chunks of debris that
were left over from when it exploded. Alright, so we managed to make today's expenses, or tomorrow's expenses. So to complete the next certification, I need to drop off one more electrical component, complete 18 more work order objectives, and drop off and acquire just under 4 million more credits. And that'll get me rank certification 8, I believe, or well, yeah, I think I'm on 7 now. Yeah, I'm on 7 now. And that'll get me to 8, which is labor. Which means, and for that one, I would need to complete 140 objectives, and salvage 5 Class 2 reactors, 5 Class 2 external cryo units, at least that's what I think ECU stands for, and 10 thruster Mark IIs, all of which are found on the geckos. And I also need to salvage 96.5 million credits. And it looks like there's only 7 classes of ships, of which I'm already at 6, so after this next ranking, I don't think I get a new ship. Or at least new kinds of ship. Yeah, so after this certification, I don't think I get any new kinds of ships available. So if let's look at equipment. Let's repair the grappler. And cutter looks fine. Scanner didn't take any damage. So there isn't much left of the existing Mackerel, so there's not much. So there's no real reason to continue salvaging the basic scraps that there is. And we do have so if we look at the new ships, we have 2 different types of Stargate for rank grade 5. Yeah, which is what I'm currently at. I guess I still have to unlock 6 and 7. Interesting. Guess I read that wrong. So for ship grade rank 5, I have access. I can choose between a salvage runner, 2 salvage runners, because that's the logo of the original owning corporation, or 2 stargazers. If I go to rank 4, I have 3 different station hopper geckos, Rank 3 is 3 station hoppers and another heavy cargo mackerel. Rank 2 are 3 station hoppers and a light cargo. And then grade 1 is and always will be the training mackerel. No, I don't want to claim that ship. So those are my current options, but they don't matter because, as I said before, any ship that you choose to salvage does not carry over between play sessions. And since any other vessel that I try to take apart would make this video ridiculously longer than it already is, I'm going to call it here.
Everybody stay safe from the plague and have a good day.